make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burning Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy Friday. I hope the weekend is going to treat you well. I hope the week has treated you all right. And, I'm not going to lie. As of here recently, and I think you guys understand this and see where I'm coming from, but I'm a tad bit concerned about where the hell the country is going, and as I'm going to go into in this episode, not just the country, but the entire world. And so I've titled this episode World War Thrice, History is a Parallelogram. Of course, it doesn't make any sense because I intended it not to make any sense. It was supposed to be a funny joke. Whether you laughed or not, I don't know. I hope so. If not, well, I'll try again. I'll get you one of these days. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. I'll get you when you're least expecting it. Or I'm pretty predictable, really. Dick jokes and making fun of everybody in general. So you'll probably see it coming, but I'm still gonna make fun of you. Anyhow, I listen to a lot of history stuff, whether they podcast or radio or audiobooks. I read a bunch of stuff and I go down rabbit holes. I don't know. I've got a very curious mind. And not to say that that's always the case. Or for every topic, there's some topics I just don't give two shits about. But when I do find something that really catches my interest, like, I'm just that's where I'm at all the time. That's what I'm thinking about. It annoys the shit out of my wife, and I can't help it. And I'm gonna make up a diagnosis. I'm gonna say that I'm autistic just because, I can. And how dare you to question that? Because this is my lived experience here. This guy right here. So, anyway, my wife, like I said, it annoys her because I go deep down rabbit holes and then she has to hear about it. And sometimes it's stuff that she wants to, it's stuff that she wants to talk about or that she's interested in. A lot of times it's not. It's just stuff that I'm interested in. And, she's like, well, okay. When can you move on to the next topic? And I said, well, when I'm damn good and ready, I'm a grown ass man. Give me another day, please. I gotta read this article. So anyway, I started thinking about. I started with the stock market. Stock market is kind of, well, with all the inflation over the past, what would you say? Well, if we're going to be honest, like we go way back till 1971. But let's talk about relevant times, and I'll just go back to March of 2020, when all the whole world shut down. And I'll give Donald Trump a pass, and if I don't know how many left wing listeners I have. I've got plenty of libertarian leaning guys like myself that have some left wing views on social issues and whatnot. But I do. There was one gal that listened for a while that was like a hardcore Joe Biden supporter, and she listened to the show and actually enjoyed it. So hats off to her, because there's not many left wing people that are tolerant of dissenting views. I mean, not that the hardcore right wings much better, but the right wing people that you'll never convince generally will at least give you an ear. They'll at least hear you out, whether or not they're actually listening. They'll at least let you speak your piece. The left wing doesn't do that anymore. So hats off. Like I said, I wish I could remember her name. Probably my only like true lefty listener. So I apologize. And hopefully you don't send me into the woke court or whatever they do. But anyhow, back to the inflation issue. That I'm going to put that right square at March 2020, when the pandemic, all the stuff started happening, the lockdowns, the mandates, and basically the economy comes to just a giant screeching, grinding halt. And then, even though the brakes were still on, and you're running out of air pressure, having a hard time keeping those engine RPMs up, and well, eventually, yep, been a long day. But eventually, like, you get to kind of moving forward again, but your brakes are still locked. Your I guess wheels, what you call them on the train. I don't know the rail. No, the rails are what you're on, but I guess the steel wheels are ground off flat at one point, so they still turn, but it's like the Canadian cars in South Park, where everything's got square wheels. That's kind of what it's like when your economy comes to a grinding halt. And we'll get into some of the causes behind that here later on. But that's that's really the response to like the economy coming to a grinding halt, which was all, I mean, it was pandemic related, but it was all 100% government induced, because a virus is going to do what it's going to do. We've already established that fact many a times. Mask mandates, vaccine mandates. Amy Coney Barrett, I just shared to me. I think I'm going to go ahead and make that the the cover art for this episode. But you remember when Amy Coney Barrett was going through her Senate confirmation hearings, she had a notepad in front of her, and they asked her what she had wrote on it for notes, and she held it up, and it was blank. Made a great meme format. So I went back, a little callback, and then of course I put a little text box on there that says "Mandate this dick." Supreme Court just shot down the the OSHA vaccine mandate, so it was as a way to get around Congress and allow, or well, attempt for Joe Biden to just use executive authority to order that the occupational safety and health administration, I think it's what it's called, OSHA, directed them to require mandatory vaccines or mandatory testing for COVID for all companies over 100 employees, which is the vast majority of covers something like 84 to 100 million. I think 84 is what I seen, but I seem to remember when it first went into effect, when it was first announced, saying that it was going to be 100 million. So I'm gonna just split the difference there. So 100 minus 84, that's what, 16. So 84 plus 8 would be 92. We're going to go call it 92 million people affected. That's a lot of millions, and a million is a lot of singles. So you've got a million of singles times a whole lot of millions that are affected by this, and are facing the possibility of losing their job should you not take this experimental vaccine that lots of people in very high positions of power stand to make a lot of money, and already have made a lot of money because of these vaccines. Sure, there is nothing shady going on behind the scenes. No collaboration between corporate America and the U.S. government. None whatsoever. We are all on the same page here, comrade. And it just... I went off on a tangent. Now I'm trying to get back to my original point, but I don't exactly remember what that was. Anyhow, this has that led to the greatest one day, or one of the worst one day drops in the stock market. It was when everything came to a screeching halt. And we found out, I covered it, me and Aaron covered it here a couple weeks ago, about all these elected officials that either bought stock in like medical supply companies that made masks, and places that made hand sanitizer, and then dumped stocks in airlines and cruise ships and movie theaters, live entertainment venues, hotels, all of that. But don't worry, we're gonna print a bunch of money so that you guys don't go under, and while this all happens. And it's amazing how it's just amazing how all this works perfectly, and we find out that all of this is going on, and there's no investigation, no charges brought, no nothing. But if me and you did the same thing these people did in the same circumstances, without being an elected official, we would be in court so fast, so fucking fast. But all of this parallels. So I don't think the stock market dip in 2020 was, I think it's kind of borne out to be true that wasn't the Black Tuesday event that happened in 1929. That was maybe one of the little shakeups leading up to the next Black Tuesday, or whatever day it'll end up on. But to understand all of that, you have to understand like what led to the market crashing, and then to understand all of that led to the events that led up to the stock market crashed. You have to go back to World War One, and then like you can keep going back, and it all ties in somewhere. But I'm not going to do a marathon podcast, so I got to work in the morning, and I also got to put this up in the morning. I don't have to, I guess, but I try to make sure that I put it up on a schedule for you guys, because I've already done that, and now you guys can expect that. And well, now that's on me. So we got to make a cutoff point at some point. So let's just go to right up. Let's go like 2 weeks before Gavrilo Princip assassinates the Archduke of Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke of Hungary, Austria-Hungary. That's right. So in that time period, we have basically the entire Eastern Hemisphere, or I guess east of the Americas, is basically a bunch of monarchs ruling the world, and they all have colonies all over the globe. And then you have the United States, Canada, which Canada's got a weird deal with the United Kingdom, and they're still like kind of part of the British Empire, I think. And back in 1918, I think they were a full-fledged colony. I don't know for sure. You Canadians are fucking weird, by the way. Like, no offense, love you to death, but your whole deal is fucking weird, especially compared to the U.S., where we told Great Britain to fuck off. Then we came crawling back real close afterwards after they'd let us go. I mean, so like they let us go and we came back, but we're also like, hey, we're not doing that shit again where you just beat us mercilessly. We're not going to do that. We're actually probably going to beat you every now and then. And you see how that has all borne out, where we call, Great Britain our greatest ally or something like that. But yeah, they don't really have much influence over us. Boris Johnson, by the way, he's the prime minister over there in the UK. He was kind of like the main, like he was the face of the whole Brexit campaign. And since he caught the Rona, he has been just a real authoritarian, like real quick for lockdowns and stuff. And they have another round of lockdowns over there because, we got the Omicron, we got the flu Rona, we got the Deltacron, and they locked down over there. And then he was just saw at a like basically a block party or some shit like that, where it was bring your own booze, and it was like a dance party in the park or something like that. And he had the gall to go without a mask, and so like the Brits are real pissed off at him now. So that's cool. Yeah, it's when I was talking to Evan Hafer, who's the CEO of Black Rifle Coffee here earlier this year, he made the comment. It was like it's very true. It's and as simply put and like crudely put as it was very profound. But it's like everybody's like just all of a sudden surprised that people in positions of power abuse power, and people who abuse power are pieces of shit, and pieces of shit get into places positions of power through shitty means, and people are still surprised by that, even though that's been going on since the beginning of this country. Not to even mention the rest of the world, which we typically don't as Americans. We focus on here in America first, which is a good thing. I think we should focus on America first, but not exclusively on America. So we kind of turn a blind eye to the rest of the world, and I don't know how the political climate was in all these different countries that eventually ended up at war with each other in 1914. But I can imagine that there was looking at the globe right now, you have major political turmoil here within the U.S. You're not seeing anything particularly violent, and I'm not downplaying the riots and shit from last summer, but compared to the rest of the world, that's pretty mild. Like we don't have, we have people pulling down statues, but they're not like pulling down a statue and then attaching the leader whose statue it is to that statue and then dragging them through the streets of the city. So we've got a few steps to go to where you consider where the rest of the world is at. But along those same lines, like you see some just fringe political movement, really kind of capturing the whole narrative here in the U.S. You see all sorts of authoritarian the rest of the world, and in Europe, you see a lot of civil strife, just like you do here with extreme left wing and extreme right wing parties going at it, and so in that case, a parallelogram to like Weimar Germany, where Germany coming out of World War One, all these like brutal punishment after the Treaty Versailles, where you have the shrinking of the German military, and then like the French taking over a bunch of the land that they had conquered. I guess it was disputed land for, but France just kind of got to march in, take it over, and then also kind of shake their ass at them while they're at it. And after Germany was unable to make some of those reparation payments, then they took a little bit more land, and it seems a lot similar to the situation in Ukraine and Russia, even though Ukraine is historically been a disputed territory. So it's I don't know. It's not just as simple as like we gotta defend Ukraine. But then you also have China threatened to take over Taiwan, who we are, I guess, technically legally obligated to defend should they invade. And you have all these kind of precarious alliances like they did in World War One, that like one single issue could set off an entire chain of events that puts the whole world at war, just like it did back in 1918 and then again in 1939. But though the roles are somewhat reversed. So you still got Germany as kind of a second tier major world power, I suppose. But if you compare the United States to German monarchy that surrendered in World War One, I guess basically Prussia unified the German peoples or whatever first time, and they were bent on world conquest. Not that much different from the United States, even though in our world we kind of stuck to the Western Hemisphere until World War One. Well, now we're a relatively young nation still, and we're hell bent on world domination. And if you don't believe that, you just I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, we're hell bent on world domination, and the fact we essentially fought or stayed in this war in Afghanistan strictly over the movement of energy resources from the Asian continent to the European continent, of which Afghanistan is kind of the no man's land between those two. Whether they're competing for rare earth minerals like lithium and shit like that, or putting a pipeline through. It's Afghanistan is a lot like the Austro-Hungarian Empire, kind of in that same area, and much like pre-World War One, you have a bunch of like satellite nations that make up like the broader empire. So you have the British Empire, which the sun never sets on the British Empire. So you have anything from like the Balkans, or what's the islands off of Argentina that they fought over? The Falkland, I think, yeah, Falkland Islands, and then you got like India, China, all over the world. You got the French all over the world. You got the Germans a lot in Africa. You got the Dutch all over the world, and there's all these treaties and alliances that old leaders had made, different leaders throughout the years had made, and everybody kind of sticks by them because it's easier to do that and talk tough than it is to sit down and be like, hey, maybe this doesn't make sense. We should rethink this whole peace treaty. Like, hey, Taiwan, I know we said we're going to defend you at all costs, but that treaty was made before the PU had nuclear weapons and became, basically major world power. It was all in the past, and I'm sorry, it's not you, it's me, but we probably should not go and defend Taiwan as much money as that would make for a lot of people who own stock in the military-industrial complex. That'd be a big boom if you got stock in Boeing or Raytheon. And but as far as the overall effects of what that would entail, it's not good really for anybody anywhere. When you have two countries just lobbing nukes at each other, that's not good for anybody. But like us stepping in and saying like, hey, we have to abide by this treaty that we signed in the 40s to defend Taiwan against mainland China, who by the way also have like 1.5 billion to 2 billion people total, and we have somewhere around 350 million. So about, what do we got? That'd be three times our population roughly would make 1 billion people. So 4.5 times our population in China. Plus the fact we'd have to sail over there or fly over there, thousands of miles away from home. Like, we got supply lines. We got a lot of supply lines in China. But if they're at war with us, I don't imagine we're still going to be able to get goods from them, which would be a problem. Let me tell you that. That would be a real problem. But anyhow, you have the German Empire kind of right mixed up in the middle. I wouldn't say they're the biggest player at the time. You got France and Germany, or not France and Germany, but France and England still basically control the rest of the world outside of the Western Hemisphere. But Germany's this upstart, ends up really kicking ass in the early days of the war. And then the war kind of grinds into just a slog, meat grinder stalemate. And what happens right about as everything's just kind of peter out and then real peace talks are going to happen, what happens then? Woodrow Wilson sends a whole bunch of doughboys, as they were called, American soldiers over there. I believe they called them doughboys because the soap they used to shine their belt buckle looked like a lump of dough, if I recall that right. So don't quote me on that. Anyhow, we sent like 1 million men over there, shifted the entire tide of the war within a very short amount of time. Germany goes ahead and surrenders, and that's where shit really went awry. Like not that World War I wasn't shit going awry, because it was the worst war in human history up until that point. And so like I said, that's why I call history as a parallelogram, because it doesn't exactly parallel history, but or history doesn't exactly parallel itself, but it's pretty similar. So while history might not be a square or rectangle, but it's definitely a parallelogram. But anyway, Germany, they lose, and in the meantime, they're I'll pull this up. Where's my I don't know how to do my screen share here. I don't know. Anyways, I'll just read it off. So, okay, so Weimar Republic was Germany's government from 1919 to 1933. The period after World War I until the rise of Nazi Germany. It was named after the town of Weimar, where Germany's new government was formed by a national assembly after Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicated. From its uncertain beginnings to a brief season of success and then a devastating depression, the Weimar Republic experienced enough chaos to position Germany for the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. And say that this is also where I think a lot of these lefties get Donald Trump wrong. Donald Trump was not Adolf Hitler. I think he was more like Kaiser Wilhelm. So Germany after World War I, this is all from history.com, so History Channel. Germany didn't fare well after World War I, as it was thrown into troubling economic and social disorder. After a series of mutinies by German sailors and soldiers, Kaiser Wilhelm lost the support of his military and the German people, and he was forced to abdicate on November 9th, 1918. And this strengthens my point that Donald Trump is more like Kaiser Wilhelm. When you look at the number of officers in the U.S. Military, whether it be Army, Navy, Marines. I don't know if there was any Coast Guard people that signed off on it. Isn't that weird how does anybody know anything about the Coast Guard? I've studied military history a good amount. I won't say extensively because there's always people that I'm not a history major. But I've read up on the U.S. military quite a bit. And I don't know anything about the Coast Guard. So But there was a letter that was signed by something like 140 U.S. military officers that endorsed Joe Biden for president. That is something that has never been done in U.S. history, where you're in the military, you don't get involved in politics. That's how it was always intended. That there is a civilian control of the military, meaning that the president is in charge, and the president is not in the military. He's the chief executive of the country. But in time of war, when he's in office, he's also in charge of the military. Even though he may be a civilian, it's that's fine. We want the military people ordering the military around, but we want civilians ordering the military people that order the rest of the military around, because when all you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail, and military people like to do military shit. And that's why you don't want them making the foreign policy decisions. If foreign policy shit goes sideways, yet those are the people that you want, that you don't want them leading the country necessarily, but leading a fight. Yeah, like you want those type of people in the military. You don't want politicians in the military, because politicians fuck everything up. Everything. So it's talking about, after a series of mutinies by German sailors and soldiers, Kaiser Wilhelm's forced to step down. Donald Trump, by election, and if you're still under the belief that the election was stolen, and you're still saying the same shit that Donald Trump is saying, which is nothing, I don't know what to tell you, but basically Donald Trump was forced to abdicate. He was the leader of the free world, and for all intents and purposes, as painful as that may be, American people spoke, and they said, "Get the fuck out." And so here we are. Now we got, who's after Kaiser Wilhelm? Well, let's find out. So after a series of mutinies, blah, 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 and forced to abdicate on November 9th, 1918, the following day, a provisional government was announced, made up of members of the Social Democratic Party and the Independent Social Democratic Party of Germany, so the SDP and the USDP, shifting power from the military. So we went from the military running everything under Kaiser Wilhelm to you have Nazis, fascists. I guess they weren't Nazis yet, but they were fascists, social democrats, versus independent fascists. So real good choice there in Weimar, Germany. In December 1918, elections were held for a National Assembly tasked with creating a new parliamentary constitution. February 6, 1919, the National Assembly met in the town of Weimar and formed the Weimar Coalition. They also elected SDP leader Friedrich Ebert as president of the Weimar Republic. Joe Biden has become the Friedrich Ebert of the modern-day Weimar Republic, in my opinion. On June 28th, the Treaty Versailles was signed, which ordered Germany to reduce its military, take responsibility for the World War I, relinquish some of its territory, and pay exorbitant reparations to the Allies. It also prevented Germany from joining the League of Nations, which wasn't, turns out, it was a nothing gig, but in there, and so much so that the people that created the League of Nations, meaning us, the United States of America, it was our idea, or Woodrow Wilson's idea, but he was the leader at the time, so it was our idea, and it was such a bad one that in 1918, the United States formed this League of Nations and then refused to join it. But in the case of Germany, kind of sucked for them that they were not in the League of Nations, because they had no say in what would happen going forward on the world stage. So the Weimar Constitution on August 11th, 1919, Weimar Constitution was signed into law by President Ebert. The law faced venomous opposition from the military and the radical left. The Constitution contained 181 articles and covered everything from the structure of the German state or the Reich, and the rights of the German people to religious freedom and how laws should be enacted. And in it was the German Reich is a republic. The government is made up of a president, a chancellor, and a parliament, or the Reichstag. Representatives of the people must be elected equally every 4 years by all men and women over the age of 20. 7 years for the term for the president. All orders of the president must be endorsed by the chancellor or a Reich minister. Article 48 allows the president to suspend civil rights and operate independently in an emergency. That'll be an important one that we'll revisit. Two legislative bodies, the Reichstag and the Reichstat, were formed to represent the German people. All Germans are equal and have the same civil rights and responsibilities. All Germans have the right to freedom and the freedom of expression, the right to peacefully assemble, the right to freedom of religion, and there is no state church. State-run public education is free and mandatory for children. All Germans have the right to private property, and all Germans have the right to equal opportunity and earnings in the workplace. So, doesn't sound bad, minus the whole Article 48 part, where the president can suspend all of those rights that are guaranteed to you there. Despite its new constitution, the Weimar Republic faced one of Germany's greatest economic challenges, hyperinflation. Once again, sound familiar. Thanks to the Treaty of Versailles, Germany's ability to produce revenue-generating coal and iron ore decreased. As war debts and reparations drained its coffers, the German government was unable to pay its debts. Some of the former World War I allies didn't buy Germany's claim that it couldn't afford to pay it. In a blatant League of Nations breach, French and Belgian troops occupied Germany's main industrial area, the Ruhr, R-H-U-R, Ruhr, determined to get their reparation payments from the Ruhr. The Weimar government ordered the German workers to passively resist the occupation and go on strike, shutting down the coal mines and iron factories. As a result, Germany's economy quickly tanked. In response, the Weimar government simply printed more money. The effort backfired, however, and further devalued the German mark. And inflation increased at an astounding level. The cost of living rose rapidly, and many people lost all they had. So that's kind of, I didn't read much into much after that, but that and I also read somewhere that on I can't remember if it was January 13th or 14th, but either way, on this day in history, whether it be when I'm recording it or when you're listening to it, is the day in, I believe it was 1919, that Adolf Hitler was arrested. So, like I said, parallelogram. History is a parallelogram. So, going back to Kaiser Wilhelm, he comes out of World War One. In a disgrace. He is trying to hold everything together. I've talked about this many a times, but go listen to Dan Carlin. I think you have to go buy the episodes now, but they're like $1 a piece. well worth the money. But he does a series of episodes on it's called Countdown to Armageddon, and it's all over the everything leading up to World War One and World War One itself. It's really fascinating, and as the U.S. enters World War One, really, like I said, really shifts the balance of power. The war in Europe had basically ground to a halt, and they were just basically just lobbing shells back and forth to each other's. Shit. They were just lobbing shells into the trenches at each other, and no real progress was made. You'd gain like a couple yards, catch a nap just in time for the other side to come push you back another 3 foot, and you're right back where you started, except your trench has been bombed out, so you got to dig just so you can get down away from the machine guns, which is the first war ever that extensively used machine guns, and it's a nasty deal, and it's basically leading up to the point where France and Germany are going to have to shake hands and say, hey, let's get something done here. But instead, here comes Woodrow Wilson and a million doughboys, immediately shifts the power dynamic, and Germany is forced to surrender because they're running out of men, they're running out of supplies, they're running out of natural resources, or they're way behind, and they're just like, all right, we throw in the towel. Kaiser Wilhelm says, fuck it. And then there might have been something where they decided to keep on fighting. But anyhow, he had basically just full-blown mutiny from all the German military. And yeah, he's forced to, was like, all right, I'm out. Can't do it. You guys aren't going to listen to me anyway, so fuck it, I'm out. And like I said, parallelogram. Donald Trump didn't step down, but pretty well forced out. Kind of in disgrace with mutiny from high-level military. So where Germany was a lot of the just like your low-level sailors, your privates, your grunts in the infantry, they just said, "Fuck that! I'm going home. I am going home. I'm done killing for all you people. Like I've watched too many people die, and everybody's just fucking sick of it. Kind of like everybody is with COVID, even though not as deadly." Not as deadly as World War One. And that is a fact, YouTube. You cannot challenge that fact. World War One was far more deadly than COVID up to this date. But then, and it's like every country that we have invaded over the last 50, 60, 70 years, we overthrow what seems to be just a tyrannical dictator, and everybody is happy about that. And, you know, like things are looking up. Maybe these countries are going to modernize, but the moderate people that you want to run the shit don't win elections. It's always some radical, and there you go. You've got fascists and independent fascists, and Adolf Hitler says, no, fuck you. I am a more independent fascist, and fuck the Jews. And that's kind of how he took power. And there's been a lot of research into how people could follow along with that. And it's, I don't know, there's a lot of different explanations for that, but I think if you look at just the basic facts of the whole deal, Germany fucking sucked after World War One. It looked like they were gonna finally end the war and just kind of go back to normal life and let the bigwigs sort it out. Except all of a sudden, there's a bunch of Americans, and now you're at the mercy of everybody. And you're pissed off, you want to fight, but you just got done fighting for 5 years in a war that meant it was the greatest war in world history. And at the end of the day, it accomplished nothing. I mean, it kind of started the downfall of monarchies, but as far as just some shift in geopolitical influence, nothing was really accomplished. And we're looking at while Donald Trump didn't withdraw from Afghanistan, he put that whole plan in motion. Joe Biden went ahead and took that and does what Joe Biden did and what he always does, and fuck it all to hell. And so it ended up badly, but when the numbers came out and they're saying we spent like something like 3 trillion, 2 or 3 trillion over in Afghanistan, and people are getting real tired of paying more money in taxes. And then you have this pandemic deal, and the economy shuts down. The stock market dips really bad, and their solution is to print more money. So I had a pretty good article on this. So there was a really good quote, and damn it, I should have highlighted that. Oh, so this one deal when the stock market collapsed at the end of the 20s, so beginning in March 15th, 1933, and continuing through the rest of the 30s, the Dow began to slowly regain the ground it lost. The largest percentage increases of the Dow Jones occurred during the early and mid 1930s. And in late 1937, there was a sharp dip in the stock market, but prices held well above the 1932 lows. The Dow Jones did not return to the peak of its closing of September 3rd, 1929 until November 23rd, 1954. 1954, 25 years later, the stock market reached back to its previous highs. 25 years it took the stock market to recover. And the stock market is just one indicator of the economy. But man, 25 years. And there was oh, here it is. It's up. So the Roaring Twenties was a decade following World War I that led to the crash. It was a time of little wealth. It was a time of wealth and excess building on post-war optimism. Rural Americans migrated to the cities in vast numbers throughout the decade with the hopes of finding a more prosperous life in the ever-growing expansion of America's industrial sector. Despite the inherent risk of speculation, it was widely believed that the stock market would continue to rise forever. On March 25th, 1929, after the Federal Reserve warned of excessive speculation, a small crash occurred as investors started to sell stocks at a rapid pace, exposing the market's shaky foundation. Stinky, shaky foundation. 2 days later, banker Charles E. Mitchell announced that his company, the National Citibank, would provide $25 million in credit to stop this market slide. Mitchell's move brought a temporary halt to the financial crisis, and call money declined from 20% to 8%. However, the American economy showed ominous signs of trouble. Steel production declined. Declined. Construction was sluggish. Automobiles sales went down, and consumers were building up large debts because of easy credit. Does that sound familiar? We're starting to see a lot of shortages. Steel, lumber, automobiles have went down, or the automobile sales have really went down, and not for the lack of demand. There has been plenty of people looking for them because there's easy credit out there. The credit system is a lot more fucked than it was back then, but for a good amount of people, it's pretty easy to get some money lended to you at very low interest rates, almost zero interest rates. And I just like, despite the inherent risk of speculation, it was widely believed that the stock market would continue to rise forever. We're going on 5 years of presidents now, saying that the stock market has reached record highs. You've never seen such a tremendous stock market. It's the best stock market. It'll blow your mind. Everyone agrees. And then, come on, man. Look at the stock market, guy. Come on, corn pop. We got a lot of numbers, Jack. A lot of numbers. Come feel my leg hair. Yeah, but both of them are bragging about the stock market as if it'll never dip at all. And we saw some pretty significant dips. Some really significant dips over the last couple of years. And the economy did not crash. But how many times can it do that? And I don't know, that maybe I'll have to carry this one on, because where I'm at right about an hour, and I'm just feel like I'm just getting started. But like I said, I've also got to get up early in the morning. So, man, I really, there are so many parallels between the like, say, 1914 up to like the 1930s and today, and this last 5-6 years that we've been in. It's so many parallels. So many parallels that it's real easy to get discouraged and wonder what the fuck's going to happen here. But also, we could learn from history. We probably won't, but we could. We definitely could. And maybe this helped kind of put things in perspective as to like how similar things are as to when the world went to shit. So we're standing on some very precarious grounds. We had some really good news, so shout out to all the 6 Supreme Court justices. Isn't that insane that a majority of 9 gets to decide whether a law that could fuck you up really bad, all it takes is 5 people to decide that that's okay, and that it stays in place. It's wild. Granted, I know it's better than a lot of other countries, but it still could be better. Anyhow, I think shit's going to get wild here. I don't know when, but shit's going to get crazy. And I'm going to try to be prepared for it. Hope you guys are too. But if it comes within the next month or so, make sure you get your ass to Elko and see some live music before everything goes to hell. Stage Door, 28th and 29th will be on from 8 to 10. Myself, Sam McHugh, Matt and Rachel Wilson, the Wampus Wilsons, and my buddy Eric Shields from down in Oklahoma. Might have a few other people stop in. I don't know yet. And If not, we're going to put on a good show regardless. It's going to be a fun time. We'll have some laughs, have some really, really good music. We'll have some storytelling, and we'll have some original cowboy poetry from myself and several other working cowhands from across the country. So, looking forward to it. Can't wait to melt some faces, and hope you enjoyed this episode. So, on that note, move your ass. We're burning daylight.